Welcome to ePathshala lecture series for MArch students. In the second module, we will be looking at further visual characteristics of plants with respect to the forms, and we will see more forms in this particular second module. So, we will be again seeing a small introduction about the visual characteristics of plants. We would see the types of visual characteristics that are there, and then understanding forms, and further look at what are the other forms that we can see in the plants themselves. As you saw earlier, that planting which is primarily referring to the structure will create space, and it has its own decorative and visual qualities, and these qualities are formed by the details of the foliage, bark, flowers, and also the character of the space that surrounds it is being established by the forms that are there in the particular structure. So, it can be analyzed when we saying visual characters, it can be analyzed into by different characters such as form, line, texture that can be identified in a particular planting group. So, for example, if you see this picture, we could see lines which are generated by the plants in the visual lines that are there. Then you can see a form which is we can see that it is being done up like that. Then you have a line and the texture which is very bold, very rough, and which shows an ascending character, and all these have a kind of character within themselves, and which brings together how a space is looked at visually, and how effectively the aesthetical considerations can be brought into this particular space as such. So, they can be very special effects. In addition to this, flowers, the fruits of the plants also create a particular kind of visual character of the design landscape, and it is important for us to have an understanding of all the forms, all the qualities of a plant, of the visual qualities of a plant that is necessary for the landscape architect to know, so that it can be employed well, and the design landscape is done in a good way in that particular aspect as such. As I said earlier, that the cultural associations of a plant is also important, and one needs to have the cultural sensitivity, and also needs to understand how it is being accepted by the user group, especially if the landscape architect is not part of the user group. An attempt should be made to appreciate as well as understand what is the cultural sensitivity or connect of a particular plant group, or even a plant, or even a color of a plant. Any visual character of a plant could have on the local mindset of the people. So, it is important that this is being established and considered in the first sense as such. And also how each of the people, user group, interpret a particular plant as such, or a tree as such. Maybe there might be one part of a state which could consider one plant or a tree as sacred, or the other one for the other part, or somewhere in another part of the country that could not mean anything to them. So there are a lot of interpretation and taste, and how people perceive a particular plant form. All these are important for the landscape architect to understand and also have in mind when the selection is being done to establish the design landscape. So, what kind of association it has in the minds of the people. So, these are very important when we consider the cultural aspect. So, as we saw earlier, that the form of the plant is its three-dimensional shape. It can be seen from various distances, angles, so it is being perceived in various ways and in various angles. So, based on the distance as well as in the angle, so the way we interpret it, and it can also be looked at from close quarters, or even from a form of a plant can also be so important, so that it can set up the space around the around it, and also it can be an anchor plant, so, or an anchor tree for that matter, around which a entire space is being set up. the space can become intricate and entangled with the solid form of the plant itself. So, it is an important it becomes an important criteria for species selection, and looking at its lines, the direction of the leaf patterns, and the lines which are created, and the ascending or the descending habits which are there, and also the silhouette which is being created by the entire plant structure itself. So, putting all these things like line, direction, silhouette, everything, and even the mass, the density of the leaves, whether it is very dense or very airy, which has a lot of gaps within it. Even the massing also plays a certain role as to how a particular form is being envisaged. So, mass, form, and line and silhouette must be considered together when we are looking at this aspect of form which is there. So, we shall go on further and see a few more forms that we could observe in the planting structure itself. One is an arching form. The arching form, many shrubs make vigorous erect stems that after their initial burst of growth produce lateral branches and arch under their own weight. So, what happens here is that from a under stem, from a single point, you have these leaves which come out and have a ascending pattern. After some point of time, after their initial burst of growth, they arch under their own weight, which is there, what we can see in this particular form. So, the overall shape is like a sheaf of wheat with the stems gathered in at the base, but straight out towards the top. The initial vigor of the stems help the plant forage for light, then arching and lateral branching produce a broad elevated canopy to exploit its light. So, you can see it is more like a sheaf of wheat which shoots up and then arches over. So, it is like a spray out towards the top. So, it gives more light at the lower level. The arching form is also common at a smaller scale among herbaceous plants, where the stems or linear leaves adopt this configuration. Arching form is not common among trees. They generally produce sturdy branches that strengthen as they grow, rather than leaning or drooping under their own increasing weight. So, they are more or less drooping under their own weight. So, you can see some of these arching habits also expressed in weeping forms like the Betula pendula, and also arching shrubs and herbs can play a similar accent role to that of erect shrubs, though often with a little less contrast because they have a rather looser habit. They are valuable as single specimens of all sizes, or where a canopy of foliage is required at an elevated level, leaving a space below. So, it's one thing that we need to understand when it comes to form is that there can be a certain amount of overlap that we can see between two kinds of forms, and it is important that we understand the classification better and be able to use the right kind of forms in the particular landscape as such. So, we can see here some more examples of arching forms at Polygnata multiflorum. You can see how the initial burst is ascending, and then under its own weight it starts to droop down. And another example that we see here is the Pandanus sanderi, where you see the initial burst and then the arching form. So, because of these forms, they have a very strong expression, and they can be used as very good specimen plants, and because of their own character, and also it's more lighter, and it's more flowing in the design landscape as such. And then we come to a form that many of us are very familiar with, that is the palm form, and something that is seen right throughout the world, and these are forms which are very sculptural themselves, and they have their own character. This form, that is the palm form, this form is in some way similar to the arching habit described above, but distinguished by the clear stem that can rise up to 20 or more meters, and it is found most exclusively among the members of the palm family and the tree ferns which are there. So, it consists of a tall straight main stem or stems with all its leaf arising in a rosette from a single growing point at the stem tip. So, you have a very tall main stem there, and then from from there all the leaves start coming out from a rose arising in a rosette from a single growing point at the stem tip. So, if you could recollect the arching form, you can see the point from where the leaves come out are at the ground level. So, here you have something that is being brought out into at a higher level, and then the arching happens. So, it has a very similar character to the arching form. So, this gives various umbrella type shapes that can be boldly sculptural and are usually striking. Species with a palm habit have a big impact in planting because of their statistic evocative form. So, they are very strong forms in general. They also cast a light shade. Many have compact undemanding root systems that make them particularly good neighbors for other plants. So, these kind of palm forms also do not have a very vigorous root systems. They do not have a very demanding root system that can affect the local plants. So, because of the undemanding root systems, they become very good neighbors for other plants as well. So, you could see here some examples of palm forms like the Areca catechu. You can see the tall stems, and you can see the branches, the leaves which are coming out from the top. So, they are also very significant forms. They could be used as a single element, as well as they can also be used as in a group of as a group together. And you can see as in this at the lower level, you can see there is a lower canopy of shrubs which act as a base from which the entire palm form sits in. And also because of their character of their form and the single stems which arise in a ascending habit, we can also see that the one could also see on the other side the visual expanse of a particular area is also increased by because of their character. Here we see another type of palm form, that is the Trichosperma, and you can see how the branches come. There are multi branches that are which comes, the stems which come up, and then from where you have the plants, the leaves of the plants branching out in that particular pattern. And not only the palms have a very structural and a very significant form with respect to their overall shape. There are also some plants or ferns kind of characters which form a group of plants. They have a very distinctive range of forms. So, this is what we could call as the sculptural form, or in most cases these are also called as succulents, because their plants have a singular strength of these three-dimensional shape that immediately makes them the focus of our attention. So, if you can see the picture of this particular plant that you can see here on screen, the Coryphantha radians, you can see what are very striking and the amount of detailing that is being exhibited with respect to the plant form itself. So, they have a singular strength of the three-dimensional shape. It is not only the shape, but also the kind of amount of detailing, the textures, the mixing up of colors that are there. So, that becomes very sculptural, and these could be attention catchers or attention grabbers in the particular landscape when we use these forms in a very effective way. Used singly and in large, these succulents are used singly and in small groups. They should be handled like a sculpture. So, it's very important to set them up in the right place with the right background, so that their form is being highlighted. And when it is planted in large numbers, they create a landscape that is wholly distinct from the everyday human surroundings, and that brings an exhilarating atmosphere of the arid, often hostile environments from which they originate. So, once we use them in larger numbers, it would be better to use them in fairly large numbers, so that entire unique distinct landscape is being set up, or even a landscape domain is being set up by means of such kind of forms. So, some of the examples you could see of very striking forms and sculptural forms, not only with respect to their shape, but also in terms of colors and the different habits at different scales. You could see here the Mammillaria compressa, very succulent. And also the smaller ones, and these are some of the examples which are very effectively used in interior landscapes, and also setting up very small nodes, entry points, arrival points, where one can just set them up in pots and in urns, and create a very interesting node in the design landscape as such. So the Echeveria agavoides, we can see very strong detailing, and it's not only a single plant but also a group can a group or a small clump like this can create a very special character in the design landscape. Then we see the oval upright form. The oval upright form, as you can see in the photograph that is there, that you have a single bowl, and then you have the entire planting mass like an egg shape, right? That is the oval upright form. A number of shrubs and trees have generally erect habit growth, but a crown that also spreads laterally, and unlike erect and arching forms, it is consistently furnished with side branches and foliage to near ground level. The form is result of oval or egg shape. So you have this branch, that stem which goes down, and then you have lateral branches which are coming out, and from that lateral branches we have the side branches which comes out, and from where the foliage happens, and finally instead of an arching form you have something which is like an oval or a egg shaped. So this is an oval upright form, and this could be very good boundary edging trees. It is seen more often in selected cultivars than in wild species, because of an oval upright form is more desirable in an urban and garden locations where lateral space is restricted. This shape is less common among shrubs than trees, mainly because shrubs, being generally multi-stem, take on a broader habit. So you could see the oval upright form strongly expressed at the tree level. So you could see some of the examples of oval upright. So you have the central branch, and then you have the side branches from where all the trees, where all the leaves come up. So thereby, because of the growth habit, you can see a very strong oval character which is being the form as such. So it's the lines as well as the direction as well as the silhouette. All these play a very major role as to how a particular form of a particular plant is being envisaged. Here we see another example like the conical form. So it's frequent among conifers, the broadleaf species. A conical crown is generally tall and tapers from the base to a sharp apex. It is produced of a regular branching apex. So like the oval arching form, we have a central main stem which goes, and from where you have the lateral branches or the side branches. So what happens in a conical form is that as it widens at the base, and as we move up further up, it starts to taper to an apex. So thereby the very interesting conical form is being formed here. So the Araucaria columnaris is one of them. So it's gives a larger number of first order branches, and these are regularly arranged in spiral or regular vertical intervals between nodes. In many cases, the branches are nearly horizontal, and thus the cone is made up of horizontal tiers of diminishing diameter towards the top of the crown. So you can see a very strong conical thing because of the diminishing diameter as it goes to the top of the crown, unless like the oval upright form. The conical form is similar to that of oval and erect forms. The main difference lies in sometimes sharply pointed crown. So it's the sharp pointed crown at the apex that more or less defines whether one is a conical or an oval upright form. So it gives more dynamic ascending qualities, although the effect can be very austere. A strong conical form can make a striking accent in a planting composition. So it's when there is a lot of dome shape and oval shape type of plants, then you have a conical form and it creates a right kind of effect. It gives a very striking effect. So some of the examples of conical forms, the Abies alba, which is there, you can see very sharp pointed apex which is there, and another one which has a very broader base here that you can see here, very broader base, and it reduces in diameter, and this is what differentiates between a very oval form and the top. So that as it goes up, the diameter in very decreases, and the apex is what helps us to identify what kind of form this is. Then you have other types like the fastigate or columnar forms. Here you see that it is more ascending type of qualities are there. So the crown of fastigate trees is usually made up of short ascending branches that you can see that form a dense well defined crown. So when dense well defined crown that is there, so short ascending type of branches very close to the central stem, and this is called as fastigate. But when this habit produces a narrow cylindrical shape, very narrow cylindrical shape, and then that is called as a columnar kind of form. So you have the fastigate as well as columnar. Columnar comes very specifically where where this shape is being perceived more towards as being like a cylinder. So that is where we classify them as a columnar form. So fastigate form as an uncompromising visual character. It can be easily be the dominant element in a plant group. So we can see here in these from these examples that all the ascending lines or the vertical lines, anything that is that shows an erect character becomes a very strong visual element in the design landscape itself. The smaller the number of fastigate trees, the more they draw attention to themselves. So to be highlights or foci of a scene, their numbers should be restricted. So it's important, because of the strong visual quality, their numbers can be restricted so that we could highlight them in a particular planting mix. On the other hand, there are landscapes where a large number of fastigate trees are common, and given the regional landscape, must of is and it gives the regional landscape a very distinctive character overall. So you can see some of the columnar forms, the Polyalthia. Here you see the Cupressus hempenverans. You see it tapers towards, it's more like the fastigate type rather than as the columnar type, very strong. So here you can see this as a single element in the landscapes, and thereby you can see how much of importance it gains in a particular landscape. Another one is your tabulate form, where you have the branches which come in horizontal layers. You can see here that it's more horizontal, and it's like tables one on top of the other. So this foliage is expressed by a single stem in the middle, and then the branches which go horizontal, and the lateral branches from where the leaves come up. So they are more stable in their character. They have a very stable quality, but with lightness rather than weight in character. So because of their tables and because of the airiness, because of the character that I can see behind what the sky or whatever is behind through these gaps, it has a certain kind of lightness to it, apart from the stable quality of that. And also the tiers of foliage are held high and admit light and air between the branches. The contrast between tabulate and fastigate crowns can be spectacular. So right usage of tabulate and fastigate kind of forms, we could create a very interesting planting mix, and the visual character can become very extraordinary. It can be very striking as well. The distinct form can be easily lost if these plants are associated closely with others, and is most effective the tabulate trees or shrubs are allowed sufficient space to extend their canopy. So the spacing between these plants and also their mixing up with other similar type of plants, one should be able to understand, be able to see the gaps, and that is what makes this particular form very striking and very unique in the design landscape. So you can see some examples of tabulate forms here, like the Aralia. You can see how the foliage is very interesting, and you could see the tables as such. Another one interesting, the Terminalia manteli, which is there. So you could see the horizontal. So there's a sense of airiness, and there's a lot of gaps that are being created, and thereby it becomes very interesting as to how we are grouping these kind of plants, and what are the gaps that are being created in the middle. So a form that this comes under the tablet form, and yeah, it's very striking, and it can be used as good plants, edging plants. Then we have open irregular forms, and these kind of species don't exhibit any kind of very specific directions, but it grows wild. It gives a wild kind of character because of environmental factors, or even any other conditions as such, that you can see here in this particular kind of form that you are said, that you can see on screen here. So some kind of forms are grow very wild, and the open irregular forms are there. Okay. So it's irregular, it's unpredictable. The crown doesn't produce a well defined outline, so the silhouette is not very defined, and thereby it's very irregular. So the thrust, the shoots go out in various directions, and the side branches and clusters of foliage also leaves considerable space between them. So you can see a very irregular kind of an expression, or something that is not very symmetrical, or very distinctively of a particular shape as such. And then we have the train forms, more like the topiary, where it's being sculpted, where the leaves are being sculpted by trimming and clipping, and also by training. So this we call as a train form. So it's a clipped hedge kind of situation. It brings an element of control because of its strict symmetrical character. There's a certain kind of control, precision. The visual composition is being, it can be designed, and it can be taken in that particular way. So you can decide the visual expression of that particular planting as such. So form as such, we could see what are the different types of forms that we have in the visual character of a space. So it's very important, like, to understand the variety. There are a lot of plants, and there are a lot of visual characters of plants that are there with respect to form. As we saw, different varieties of forms, each having their own character, their own speciality, and these are very important to be understood, and it can play a very tremendous role in shaping the structural character of the planted landscape. And also, not only it performs a function, but also the aesthetical considerations, the aesthetical quality of the space can be very effectively met and achieved respectively by using the right kind of forms, and by and also exercising a certain amount of restraint as to how many forms or how many kind of plants are going to be used in a particular landscape, in a particular space. So it becomes very effective like that. So one can establish a strong design landscape by careful selection and mixing up of plant forms, and by giving more attention to the positional aspect of the plant to highlight the form which impacts the visual space. So it's not only the selection of the plant, but also where am I putting it, and how am I setting it up, how many am I setting it up, is it a singular element, or is it as a group element. All these things play an important role in how the space evolves, and how the space is being looked at from a visual point of view. So visual character is very important. So we can see, we will move forward and look at other visual characters like lines and textures and colors in the following module, and that is it for now. Thank you.